Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. I am Seema Shanai and today we are going to talk about figures of speech. Imagery is the language used by poets, novelists and other writers to create images in the mind of the reader. Imagery includes figurative and metaphorical language to improve the reader's experience through their senses. Imagery using visuals is called as visual imagery. An example is, the night was black as ever, but bright stars lit up the sky in beautiful and varied constellations which were sprinkled across the astronomical landscape. The experience of the night sky is described in depth with color, shape, and patterns. Imagery using sounds is called auditory imagery. An example is, the silence was broken by the peal of piano keys. Auditory imagery breaks silence with the beautiful sound of piano keys. Imagery using scent is called olfactory imagery. An example is, she smelled the scent of sweet hibiscus wafting through the air, its tropical smell a reminder that she was on vacation in a beautiful place. The scent of hibiscus helps describe a scene which is relaxing, warm, and welcoming. Imagery using touch is called tactile imagery. An example is, the grass tickled his skin and sweat cooled on his brow. Imagery is used to describe the feeling of grass, tickle, and sweat cooling on the skin. Because we experience life through our senses, a strong composition should appeal to them through the use of imagery. Descriptive imagery launches the reader into the experience of a warm spring day, scorching hot summer, crisp fall, or harsh winter. It allows readers to directly sympathize with characters and narrators as they imagine having the same sense experiences. Imagery commonly helps build compelling poetry, convincing narratives, vivid plays, well-designed film sets, and descriptive songs. In an excerpt from Ian McEwan's novel Atonement, he writes, "A taste for the miniature was one aspect of an orderly spirit. Another was a passion for secrets. In a prized varnished cabinet, a secret drawer was opened by pushing against the grain of cleverly turned dovetail joint. And here she kept a diary locked by a clasp, and a notebook written in a code of her own invention. An old tin petty cash box was hidden under a removable floorboard beneath her bed. We can almost feel the cabinet and its varnished texture, or the joint that is specifically in a dovetail shape. We can also imagine the clasp detailing on the diary and the tin cash box that's hidden under a floorboard. Various items are described in depth, so much so that the reader can easily visualize them. An allegory is a story within a story. It has a surface story and another story hidden underneath. For example, the surface story might be about two neighbors throwing rocks at each other's homes, but the hidden story would be about war between countries. Some allegories are very subtle, while others, like the rock-throwing example, can be more obvious. Many authors find it easier to think through these issues by translating them into allegories, which are easier to understand and more fun to read than dense philosophical arguments. One of the examples is George Orwell's Animal Farm, which is one of literature's most famous allegories. The surface story is about a group of farm animals who rise up, kick out the humans, and try to run the farm themselves. The hidden story, however, is about the Russian Revolution, and each one of the characters represents some figure about the revolution. Frank Herbert's science fiction epic Dune is often interpreted as a loose allegory for the history of the Middle East. Allegories deliver difficult messages in easy-to-read stories. That makes them extremely useful and expressive tools. For centuries, human beings have used allegories to say things they couldn't say any other way. Some scholars believe that myths and religious stories originated as allegories for the deep secrets of the universe and the human mind. Secrets that humans cannot comprehend without the help of an allegorical story. On this interpretation, the allegory is the oldest form of story in the world. People often use allegories in order to understand the world around them, whether it's the world of politics, new technology, or many ethical problems that challenge us today. Allegories are always rich in symbolism, that is, nearly everything in them stands for something else. Each character can represent a historical figure, a philosophical idea, or an aspect of human psychology, etc. Most stories have this kind of symbolism here and there, but it is extremely used in allegories. Euphemisms are polite, mild phrases which substitute unpleasant ways of saying something sad or uncomfortable. Euphemisms are commonly used in everyday speech to soften difficult situations. One example is, "We have to let you go, Tyler." To let someone go is to fire someone. This is a euphemism that sounds much nicer than the harsh truth of the situation. He was sent to a correctional facility. A correctional facility is a more professional and nicer sounding term than prison. Euphemisms allow us to soften otherwise difficult or unpleasant things when we speak, especially to children or people who might be offended or disturbed by the situation we're talking about. Political correctness and politeness are both filled with euphemistic phrases. Formal documents provided by organizations and conversation between people generally include euphemisms. An excerpt from George Orwell's novel 1984 is, "No word in the vocabulary was ideologically neutral. A great many were euphemisms. Such words, for instance, as Joy Camp or Minipac's Ministry of Peace, meant almost the exact opposite of what they appear to mean." The totalitarian government, also euphemistically called the English socialism, uses many euphemisms to soften the reality of its policies of eternal war and brainwashing its citizens. A hyperbole is a figure of speech in which an author or speaker purposely and obviously exaggerates to an extreme. It's used for emphasis or as a way of making a description more creative and humorous. It's important to note that hyperbole is not meant to be taken literally. The audience knows that it's an exaggeration. One example is, "That suitcase weighed a ton." In this example, the speaker claims that a suitcase weighed a ton, that's 2,000 pounds. Of course, this does not mean that the suitcase literally weighed a ton. The speaker is using hyperbole in order to emphasize that the suitcase feels very heavy. Another example is, "I haven't seen you in a million years." It serves to emphasize how long a period of time feels. We know that this isn't true, but we use hyperbole to communicate how things feel to us. Hyperbole is often used in day-to-day speech. It uses exaggeration to emphasize a certain characteristic of something, and especially how it feels. Hyperbole can be used to communicate all kinds of feelings and amuse or surprise people with the creativity of a description. Hyperbole is often used in creative writing just to make a description more amusing or creative. For example, it's always more interesting to say, "She had a brain the size of a planet," than saying that she was really smart. It's always better to describe something in an original way, and hyperbole is a great opportunity to inject feeling and humor into a description. Joseph Conrad emphasizes the passing of time in the novel Heart of Darkness. "I had to wait in the station for 10 days, an eternity." 10 days is by no means an eternity, forever, but it still feels like it. Hyperbole fills our daily conversation, advertisements, movies, TV shows, and music. It's a figure of speech that makes the world sound more colorful and stimulating and can be used to convey how strongly you feel about anything. A soliloquy is a kind of monologue or an extended speech by one character. In a soliloquy, though the speech is not given to another character and there's no one around to hear it. Instead of another character, the soliloquy is delivered to a surrogate, to the audience, or to no one in particular. The most common form of soliloquy is the character simply thinking out loud or talking to an empty room. This is a way of taking their inner monologue and externalizing it. In some soliloquies, the speaker is talking to an object rather than a character. For example, they may be speaking to a stuffed animal, an inanimate object, or a pet. Every once in a while, a character will turn around and speak directly to the audience. This may be part of a framing narrative, or it might be delivered at any point in the plot. This kind of soliloquy is a lot like an aside, but longer. A soliloquy allows the character to express his or her views without necessarily having anyone to talk to. It gives the audience an extended look at what the character is thinking and feeling in his or her own words. In Midnight Summer Dream, in In A Midsummer Night's Dream, William Shakespeare writes, "If we shadows have offended, think but this and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here while these visions did appear." Throughout the story, the fairy Puck constantly delivers brief asides and soliloquies to the audience, keeping them informed about everything that's going on. Puck is a great example of a trickster, one who is able to cross all sorts of boundaries by talking directly to the audience. Puck breaks down the barriers between fiction and reality, which is one of the major themes of the play. In the graphic novel Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan delivers a chapter-length soliloquy on his decision to leave Earth for the solitude of Mars. There is no one around to hear him speak, but nonetheless he narrates his thoughts out loud, reflecting on his memories of Earth and the demands being placed on him by petty Earthlings. Encomium comes from a Latin word meaning to celebrate. It's a speech, poem, or other text written in praise of a specific person or thing. Encomia are usually written in very elevated language and praise their object in very strong terms. An encomium is a way of giving honor to something or someone deserving. If a person has many admirable qualities, they may be praised through an encomium. Similarly, a poet might write encomia to her native city or country or a place she's traveled to recently. A good encomium is a great way to express deep emotions of admiration, love, and respect. The most famous encomium in history is Gorgias's encomium to Helen. The poem is dedicated to Helen of Troy, the Greek woman who represents the ultimate ideal of feminine beauty. Medieval poets often wrote encomia to their cities, and some of the most popular poems of this period have names like the Verse of Verona or the Verse of Milan, which are both clearly examples of encomia. Many encomia are often odes. An ode is a speech or poem addressed directly to someone or something. If the ode is offering high praise, then it's also an encomium. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the bell icon to get notified every time I post.